Welcome the anointed ones. Some are born to blend in, but a chosen few are born to stand out, whether they like it or not. Ever wonder why eyes seem to linger a bit too long when you walk into a room? Or why people keep tabs on your life, even those you hardly know? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You're not just living life, you're being watched. And no, it's not paranoia, it's purpose. Psychologists say that humans are naturally drawn to those who disrupt the norm. But when you're one of God's chosen, it goes beyond curiosity. It becomes a fascination. People are captivated by your glow, your resilience, and your audacity to walk paths they wouldn't dare tread. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into the 13 mind-blowing reasons why people can't stop secretly watching you. And no, it's not just because you forgot to comb your hair this morning. Number 1. Your existence challenges their comfort zones. People get comfortable with routines, predictable outcomes, and environments where nothing challenges their thinking. But when you walk into the picture, all that changes. Without even trying, you force them to question everything they thought was normal or acceptable. It's not because you're loud or trying to be the center of attention. It's simply because you exist differently. There's something about your presence, your mindset, and the way you move through life that disrupts their safe, predictable world. They watch because they can't figure you out. You don't follow the same rules everyone else lives by, and that makes you magnetic and unsettling at the same time. They see you chasing dreams they never had the courage to pursue, or making choices they wouldn't dare make. Suddenly, their comfortable little bubble feels tight and stifling because your life shows them what's possible outside of it. And deep down, that makes them restless. It's not just jealousy either, though that might play a role. It's more about the way your life silently asks a question. What's stopping you from living with the same boldness? Most people avoid those kinds of questions because they require change, and change is uncomfortable. But when you're around, they can't avoid it. So they watch, hoping to figure out the secret to your fearlessness. Or maybe just to see if you'll stumble, so they can justify staying in their comfort zone. But here's the twist. You're not trying to disrupt anything. You're just living in alignment with a higher purpose, and that naturally shakes up anything not built on the same foundation. And whether they admit it or not, people are drawn to that, even if it makes them uneasy. That's why they can't stop watching. Number 2, you radiate an unexplainable authority. There's a kind of authority that can't be faked. It's not about having a fancy title, a big following, or even being the loudest voice in the room. It's something deeper, something intangible but undeniable. When you carry divine purpose, people feel it before they even understand it. It changes the atmosphere when you walk in. They may not know why, but they sense that you're different, and it makes them pay attention. The wild part? You might not even recognize it yourself. You're just living your life, following what God placed in your heart. But people around you, they pick up on it immediately. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you make decisions without seeking constant validation, and the peace you hold even when things are chaotic. That kind of presence commands respect, whether people want to give it or not. And here's the thing, authority that comes from God is unsettling to some people. They're used to power being flashy, aggressive, and loud, but yours is quiet and steady, and that's what makes it so powerful. People watch you because they want to understand it, but they can't figure out the source. It confuses them because it breaks all the rules they know about influence. Some will admire you for it. Others will be intimidated by it. But either way, they're watching, trying to figure out how you carry that much presence without trying. The truth is, it's not something you earned or achieved. It's something placed on you by God. And that kind of authority, it can't be copied, controlled, or explained away. That's why you stand out, and that's why they keep watching. Number 3, you thrive in storms. Others fear. There's something almost mesmerizing about the way you handle life's storms. While others tremble, buckle, or break under pressure, you seem to thrive in the very situations that most people fear. When the world feels like it's falling apart, you don't just survive, you rise. It's a form of spiritual resilience that others can't quite grasp, but they can't look away from either. Your ability to stay anchored, to find strength and purpose, even in the most turbulent moments, is captivating. People watch because your response to adversity is unlike anything they've seen. Instead of being overwhelmed by hardship, you find a way to transform it. Where others may drown in despair, you emerge with newfound wisdom, strength, and clarity. It's as if the storms don't just pass over you. They shape you, refine you, and make you stronger in ways others can only dream of. Your ability to thrive in what should be defeat is a testimony to a deeper well of faith and purpose. People are intrigued by this supernatural ability to endure because it makes them question their own responses to life's challenges. How can you remain so steady when everything around you is shaking? What gives you the strength to keep going when others would have quit long ago? And that's why they watch. You are a living example that storms don't have to destroy you. They can elevate you. Your survival in adversity shows them what's possible when you have spiritual resilience. And that's the kind of strength people can't help but be drawn to. You don't just face the storm, you conquer it, and that's something worth witnessing. Number 4, your failures carry purpose. Failures have a way of commanding attention, especially when you're someone who carries purpose. People expect perfection from those they perceive as chosen, but when you stumble, it's like they zoom in even closer. They're not just watching out of curiosity, they're looking to see how you handle the fallout. Here's what they don't always realize. Your failures aren't the end of your story. They're plot twists in a journey filled with divine lessons. When things fall apart for you, there's a different energy in the air. You don't crumble the way others do. You learn, adapt, and rise, sometimes even stronger than before. And that's what keeps people glued to your life. It's not just about the comeback, though that's inspiring in itself. What captivates people is how you own your mistakes and find purpose in them. When you navigate through shame, loss, or disappointment without losing your sense of who you are, you give others permission to do the same. Your ability to bounce back shows them that failure isn't fatal. It's a detour, not a dead end. People don't always admit it, but they look up to you for how you handle those messy, vulnerable moments. It's not the picture-perfect wins that teach them. It's the raw, unfiltered battles you fight to get back up. Your journey through failure becomes a blueprint for resilience, and whether they acknowledge it or not, people are learning from you, and that's the beauty of it. What was meant to break you becomes a lesson for someone else. Even when you fall, God uses it to lift others. That's why your failures carry weight, and why people can't stop watching your journey. Number 5. You walk with an unseen army. There's something about you that people can't quite put their finger on. It's not just confidence or charisma. It's deeper than that. You move through life with a quiet assurance, as if you know you're never alone. And the truth is, you aren't. You walk with an unseen army, and even though others can't see it, they can feel it. They watch as doors open for you that remain firmly shut for everyone else. Situations that should be setbacks somehow become setups for something better. Where others encounter roadblocks, you seem to find a way through, as if there's an invisible force clearing the path ahead. People don't understand it, but they can't help being intrigued by it. It's not just about favor. It's about protection, too. You've walked through battles that should have left you scarred, but you came out whole. There were moments where everything should have fallen apart, but somehow you remained standing. People see that, and whether they admit it or not, they're curious. How does someone face what you've faced and still thrive? They may chalk it up to luck or coincidence, but deep down, they sense there's more to it. What they're witnessing is divine intervention, a heavenly army that goes before you, fights for you, and shields you from harm. It's not magic, it's God's promise. That unseen presence is the reason you don't have to force your way into spaces or manipulate situations to go your way. You know there's a power working on your behalf, and that kind of assurance is magnetic. People may not understand it, but they can't deny it. That's why they keep watching, hoping to unlock the mystery of the unseen army walking with you. Number 6. Your joy is a form of rebellion. In a world where negativity and despair have become the default settings, your joy is a breath of fresh air, but it's also a bold declaration. People are used to seeing struggle, stress, and cynicism as part of the daily grind. But when you show up with unshakable joy, it's like you're flipping the script in a way that can't be ignored. It's almost like you're making a statement. I refuse to conform to this world's hopelessness. Your joy isn't naive or misplaced, it's deliberate. In fact, it's a form of rebellion against the constant barrage of bad news, divisive opinions, and the pessimistic outlook that dominates so many lives. While others spiral in negativity, you stand firm in peace. That kind of joy is contagious, but it's also disorienting for those who haven't experienced it. They want to know how you stay so positive when everything around you suggests you should be stressed, angry, or defeated. They watch because your happiness challenges the narrative they've been told about life. The world tells them that joy is for the fortunate, the lucky, or the ignorant. But your joy is grounded in something deeper, something they can't quite figure out. They see you rise above the chaos, smiling when others would crumble. And they want to know the source. It's radical, in the truest sense of the word. Your joy doesn't make sense in a world obsessed with bitterness. But that's exactly why it's so powerful. People are drawn to it, even if they are unsure how to embrace it for themselves. And that's the beauty of it. You're not just surviving, you're thriving in a world that's constantly telling you it's impossible to do so. And that's what keeps them watching, wondering how you can remain so steadfast in the face of it all. Number 7, you manifest what they pray for. It's almost eerie how your breakthroughs seem to align with the unspoken desires of those around you. While others quietly pray for success, peace, or miracles, your life becomes the manifestation of what they've only dared to ask for in silence. You don't have to preach or boast about your blessings. People can see them unfold right before their eyes. The job you landed, the relationship that blossomed, the unexpected opportunities that fell into your lap. It all seems like the answer to prayers they never voiced out loud. But it's not by accident. It's not just luck or coincidence. It's divine favor in action. People watch you not because they're just curious about your life. They watch because your successes feel like the answers to their own unspoken cries. When they see you rise, it's like they're seeing the possibility of their own prayers being answered too. They're drawn to your story, hoping to catch a glimpse of what it looks like when God's hand moves in the most ordinary of circumstances. It can be uncomfortable for them. They want to believe it's achievable for them too, but watching someone else's blessings unfold can trigger envy, doubt, or insecurity. What they don't realize is that your manifestation isn't just about you. It's a living, breathing reminder that God's favor doesn't have to be distant or out of reach. Every breakthrough you experience whispers to them. This could be yours too. And that's why they're watching you so intently. They're hoping that if they observe long enough, they can figure out the secret to unlocking the same blessings for themselves. What they may not see is that the secret isn't in the process. It's in the faith, the alignment, and the willingness to trust that what's meant for you will find its way to you. And you, simply by living it, are showing them that it's possible. Number 8, your confidence is mysterious and contagious. There's a quiet confidence about you that leaves people both in awe and a little off balance. It's not the kind of confidence that demands attention or tries to prove a point. It's a divine assurance that comes from knowing who you are and what you're meant to do. It's a confidence that doesn't rely on applause, praise, or the approval of others. And for those who live and die by external validation, that's unsettling. They can't figure out how you move with such certainty in a world that thrives on uncertainty. What's truly captivating is that your confidence isn't loud or brash. It doesn't need to be, it simply is. There's a peaceful strength that radiates from you, and people can't help but wonder where it comes from. How do you stay so sure of yourself, even when life is unpredictable or others doubt you? The answers are never obvious, and that's what keeps them watching. For those who base their worth on what others think, your ease is a puzzle. They're trying to reverse engineer your confidence, wondering how you achieve it without the constant need for reassurance. It makes them question their own reliance on external approval. And while they're trying to decode your secret, they can't help but be drawn into your energy. Your confidence isn't just attractive, it's contagious. It's mysterious because it's rooted in something they can't see, something they can't touch or control. It's rooted in your faith, your purpose, and your alignment with something much bigger than yourself. And that's the kind of confidence that makes people watch. Not because they want to tear you down, but because they secretly wish they could walk in the same assurance. You make them wonder if they too could find that divine certainty, if only they stopped depending on outside validation. Number 9, you are a mirror. They can't ignore. You have a unique way of making people see themselves without saying a word. It's not intentional, but your presence acts like a mirror, reflecting back to others the parts of themselves they'd rather ignore. You're not pointing out flaws or trying to make them uncomfortable, but by simply being yourself, you force them to face the things they've buried deep, insecurities they've hidden under layers of defense, dreams they've dismissed as impossible. And that makes people uneasy, even if they won't admit it. You're like a walking reminder of what could be if they had the courage to go after their own potential. Your confidence, your ability to chase after what you believe in, exposes their own self-doubt and fears. They're forced to confront the gap between where they are and where they wish they could be. Your presence makes them ask themselves, why am I not doing more? Why am I holding myself back? And that's the last thing many people want to face. It's easier to live with the illusion that everything is fine, that they're content with the life they've built, than to confront the truth that they're not living up to their own potential. But you don't let them escape that truth. Every time they see you moving forward, pursuing your dreams, or handling life with grace, it's like a nudge reminding them that they, too, could be doing more. That's why they can't ignore you. You're a mirror, and whether they want to face it or not, you reflect back to them all the things they're too afraid to acknowledge. Your presence forces them to confront what they've been running from, and that's what keeps them watching. Because deep down, they're hoping that somehow watching you will give them the courage to confront their own truths. Number 10. You carry a weight most would crumble under. There's a weight that comes with being chosen, a responsibility that others can feel even if they can't fully grasp it. It's the kind of weight that doesn't announce itself loudly but is heavy enough to be felt in every step you take. People can sense it around you, the gravity of your purpose, the significance of the journey you're on. It's a burden, yes, but it's also a mantle, one that you wear with a quiet dignity. And while others might see the load you carry, they marvel at how you manage to keep moving forward without crumbling. They don't always understand how you do it, the obstacles, the setbacks, the moments where life seems to throw everything at you all at once. Those are the kinds of things that would cause most people to collapse. Yet you stand firm, your resolve unbroken. You carry these burdens with a strength that seems almost otherworldly, as if you were made for this weight, and it doesn't overwhelm you in the way it would anyone else. What they don't realize is that the strength they're so captivated by isn't from some hidden reserve within you. It's a strength that's been gifted to you by the very purpose you're walking in. You're not shouldering this weight alone. There's a divine source, a power greater than yourself that fuels you when the load feels unbearable. And while you may feel tired or worn at times, it's the knowledge of your calling that keeps you steady, that allows you to carry what others could never manage. People are watching because they can't figure out where this strength comes from, and they're both amazed and comforted by the fact that someone could endure so much without breaking. Your ability to bear such weight in a world that would buckle under it speaks to the divine power that supports you, and that's why they can't look away. Number 11. Your success defies logic. Your success is a riddle that defies every logical explanation. When everything around you says it's impossible, when the odds are stacked against you, when failure seems like the only option, you somehow keep rising. And it's not just a lucky break or a momentary fluke. It's a pattern, a consistent defiance of what the world expects. People can't help but watch in disbelief, trying to piece together the puzzle of how you keep thriving when the circumstances would crush anyone else. They want to understand how you've managed to do the impossible. From the outside, it doesn't add up. You don't have the resources that others rely on. You haven't followed the conventional paths to success. and yet you somehow keep achieving, advancing, and excelling. It's almost as if you've tapped into a different set of rules, one that doesn't adhere to the same logic they live by. What they don't realize is that what they see as defying logic is really the unfolding of divine favor in your life. What doesn't make sense to them makes perfect sense in the context of God's plan. Your success isn't about following the predictable earthly formula. It's about trusting in a higher purpose, moving with faith, and embracing the opportunities that come, even when they don't seem like they're meant for you. That's the mystery that draws them in. They can't figure out the source of your success because they're trying to view it through human lenses, not divine ones. You're living proof that when God is involved, earthly expectations don't matter. And whether they're willing to admit it or not, people are captivated by that. Because in a world that's built on logic, your success is a reminder that there's always room for the miraculous. Number 12. You redefine what normal looks like. The world loves to put people into neat little boxes, labeling them by the roles they're supposed to play, the rules they're supposed to follow, and the paths they're supposed to take. But you? You don't fit any of those molds. You're the exception, not the rule. And that's exactly why people can't stop watching you. Every aspect of your life shatters the illusion that success, purpose, or happiness can be achieved by following a prescribed formula. Instead, you show them that God doesn't adhere to human templates, and neither should they. You move through the world with a kind of divine distinction that can't be ignored. You live by a different rhythm, making choices that don't always make sense to the average onlooker, and yet they lead you to places most would never dare to go. Your life is a blueprint of what happens when you're not constrained by what the world expects but are guided by a higher calling. And that's magnetic. People are drawn to the way you break the mold, create your own path, and live out a purpose that transcends the typical ideas of success. What they see in you is a constant reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all blueprint for greatness. While they've been conditioned to follow the rules, you show them that the most fulfilling and impactful life is the one that follows divine guidance, not societal pressures. The way you redefine what normal is encourages them to question the boundaries they've accepted, making them wonder what could be possible if they, too, lived by a different standard. And that's why they can't look away. Your life isn't just a story, it's a challenge to the norms they've accepted. A subtle invitation to step into something bigger, something divine. You are living proof that normal is just a word, and with God's hand on your life, you can redefine it however you choose. Number 13. You live as a reminder of the supernatural. In a world that craves evidence, where people rely on logic and what they can see, touch, and measure, your life is a powerful contradiction. You're a walking reminder that there's so much more beyond the tangible. People can't help but notice that there's something supernatural about you, something that doesn't fit within the confines of what the world says is possible. Your very existence challenges the idea that the miraculous is a thing of the past. When doors open for you against all odds, when opportunities arise, when everything points to failure, when you experience breakthrough after breakthrough despite the challenges, it's hard for people to ignore. They can't quite explain it, but they sense there's something bigger at work in your life. You don't just exist within the natural laws. You seem to operate in a realm where the impossible becomes possible, where divine favor disrupts the status quo. Your life becomes living proof that God is still actively working, still performing miracles, still doing the impossible. For those who've grown skeptical, disillusioned, or resigned to the limitations of life, you are evidence that the supernatural isn't just a fairy tale. It's a reality. People watch you and wonder, how's this happening? How does this person keep defying the odds? And they can't help but marvel because deep down they know they're seeing something that doesn't fit into their usual understanding of the world. And that's why they can't look away. You aren't just living, you're a testimony to the unseen, a tangible reminder that God's power still moves today, transforming lives in ways that can't be explained. When they see you, they see the miraculous because you, simply by being who you are, embody the impossible becoming possible. In a world obsessed with the tangible, the explainable, and the ordinary, you stand as living proof of something much greater. You are the embodiment of divine favor, a reminder that God doesn't follow human templates or operate within the limits of logic. Your failures aren't setbacks, they're lessons in resilience. Your joy isn't a fleeting emotion, it's a radical act of defiance against a world steeped in negativity. Your confidence isn't arrogance, it's a quiet assurance rooted in something far deeper than what meets the eye. And your success? It's a mystery that leaves people awestruck, a defiance of earthly expectations fueled by divine purpose. You are a walking testament to the supernatural, living in a way that challenges everything people think they know about what's possible. You carry a weight most would crumble under, and yet you thrive, showing them that there's more to life than what the world tells them they can achieve. Your very presence exposes hidden dreams, forces others to confront their truths, and challenges them to redefine what normal even means. People are watching because your life is a testament to the fact that God is still in the business of doing the impossible. Your journey, your choices, your unwavering faith, it all serves as a blueprint for what it looks like to live with divine purpose. And as they watch, they're not just observing you, they're seeing a reflection of what could be possible for them if they too trusted in the unseen, walked boldly in their calling, and lived in the assurance that with God, nothing is impossible. So keep walking, keep thriving, and keep being the miracle that others are waiting to witness. Because in the end, your life isn't just your own. It's a living, breathing testimony of the extraordinary power of a God who still moves mountains, opens doors, and defies all human logic. And that's a story worth watching. If you've been inspired by what you've read and want to dive even deeper into the extraordinary power that's within you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This journey isn't just about observation, it's about transformation, and we want you to be a part of it. Like, comment, and share with someone who needs to hear this message today. Let's spread the truth that with God, the impossible is always possible. Join the community because together we're rewriting what's possible in our lives. Stay tuned, stay blessed, and remember, you are walking proof of divine favor. Welcome, the anointed ones. Heaven never forgets what earth overlooks. Life has a peculiar way of handing out losses, dreams shattered, relationships fractured, and opportunities snatched away just when you thought you were at the finish line. But here's a divine fact. God's compensation package isn't just fair, it's outrageous. Think beyond mere refunds. Heaven specializes in interest rates that make Wall Street jealous. It may feel like you've been robbed blind by circumstances, but heaven keeps immaculate records. And trust me, God doesn't do IOUs. If you've ever felt like life played a cruel joke on you, buckle up. Heaven's punchline is better than any plot twist Hollywood could ever write. Get ready, because your divine reimbursement is long overdue, and when God pays, He pays in miracles. Number 1. Loss as sacred currency for spiritual wealth. What most people call loss, God calls an investment. The world measures success by what you gain, money, relationships, status. But heaven's accounting works differently. Every tear shed, every silent sacrifice, every dream that seemed to crumble wasn't wasted. It was a deposit in a spiritual account you didn't even know existed. And here's the best part. Heaven pays better dividends than anything you can imagine. Loss has a way of stripping you bare, making you question your worth and whether all your efforts even mattered. But in those moments, God isn't turning His back on you, He's repositioning you. Every heartbreak becomes a receipt that heaven acknowledges. You may not see it now, but heaven is meticulous about keeping track of what you've lost and will repay you in ways that far exceed what was taken. Here's where it gets interesting. God doesn't just refund what was stolen, He multiplies it. Earthly systems might offer compensation that simply restores you to where you were before, but heaven specializes in radical restoration. That's when the blessings outweigh the burdens, the joy overshadows the sorrow, and you realize God wasn't just balancing the scales, He was tipping them in your favor. You may think you've lost time, but God is outside time. He doesn't need a clock to restore what was stolen. That job you didn't get, that relationship that ended, that dream that never took off, God saw it all. And He has a way of turning those losses into opportunities that are better than anything you imagined. Heaven's repayment plan is never late, and it's never just good enough. So when life hands you disappointment after disappointment, don't think it's the end of your story. Every moment of pain is a down payment on a future filled with divine abundance. And when God decides it's time to repay you, it will be more than worth the wait. Number 2, reversals of earthly judgments. The world has a habit of labeling people based on fleeting moments. Your mistakes, your failures, your setbacks. It's quick to judge, slow to forgive, and even slower to forget. But here's the truth that should make your heart stand a little taller. Heaven doesn't operate by earthly opinions. What people misunderstood, underestimated, or outright dismissed about you, God sees fully and redeems completely. The rejection you faced wasn't wasted. Every door slammed in your face was part of a divine plan to bring you to the right door, one that no person can shut. God is always in the business of vindication, and when He moves on your behalf, it won't be in whispers but in undeniable, visible ways. Those who doubted your value will have no choice but to see the masterpiece He's been shaping through your struggle. Earth has its systems of justice, but they often get it wrong. People elevate those who play by the rules of popularity and power, while those with pure hearts are overlooked. But heaven's judgment is final, and it never makes mistakes. God's timing may seem slow, but it's perfect. When He reverses the judgments made against you, it won't just be to clear your name. It will be to elevate you to a place where everyone can see His hand at work in your life. And here's the twist. God's vindication is never just about your personal victory. It becomes a testament to those around you, a demonstration of what happens when you remain faithful despite the accusations, despite the gossip, despite the moments when you felt invisible. Heaven's justice isn't just restorative, it's transformative. So don't be discouraged by those who wrote you off. Their opinions don't have the final say. God does, and when He speaks, it changes everything. When heaven vindicates you, even those who doubted you will have to acknowledge that you were chosen all along. Number 3, heaven's compensation isn't just restitution, it's multiplication. When God restores, it's never a simple refund. He doesn't just give back what was lost, He multiplies it in ways that leave you amazed. Human compensation is always limited. It aims to make up for what was taken, but it can never fully erase the pain or restore what's gone. God, on the other hand, isn't interested in simply balancing the scales. He's in the business of overwhelming abundance. Maybe you lost years in a relationship that broke you, or you poured your heart into a career that never recognized your value. Perhaps you sacrificed dreams for others and were left with nothing in return. Earthly logic says those losses are just part of life and you're supposed to move on with whatever is left. But heaven doesn't follow that rule book. God doesn't just replace what was taken. He amplifies it beyond what you could have imagined. When God pays back, it's not a like-for-like exchange. You may have lost a job, but He positions you for a purpose-driven career that brings joy and fulfillment. You may have faced betrayal in a relationship, but He can send a love that heals the wounds no one else could touch. What you thought was wasted time becomes a foundation for something far greater. And here's the kicker. It often comes when you least expect it, in forms you never saw coming. God's restoration isn't just about material things either. It's about peace that money can't buy, joy that circumstances can't touch, and a sense of purpose that leaves you speechless. His compensation plan is always more than fair. It's lavish and it defies logic. So when you look back at what life has taken from you, don't believe the lie that it's gone forever. God keeps perfect records, and His restoration will always be greater than the loss. And when it comes, it will be so extravagant that you'll realize nothing was wasted. Heaven always pays with interest. Number 4. Losses are GPS signals redirecting you to heaven's blueprint. Sometimes the path we choose isn't the one God designed for us. We make plans, set timelines, and envision how life should unfold, only to be blindsided by losses we never saw coming. Those heartbreaks, failures, and sudden detours may feel like chaos, but in God's divine blueprint, they are perfectly aligned with your destiny. What you lost wasn't just random. It was often God removing a faulty map you were following. Losses are divine interventions that redirect you towards something greater. You may not realize it at the moment, but that rejection you cried over was God steering you away from a situation that would have drained your soul. That closed door wasn't a punishment, it was protection. Heaven has a GPS system far more sophisticated than any earthly navigation tool, and when you're off course, God recalculates your route. But here's the challenging part. Divine redirection often looks like disappointment. When you lose something you were attached to, it's easy to feel abandoned or forgotten. But God's silence in those moments isn't absence, it's strategy. He's rerouting you to a destination you couldn't have imagined on your own. You may not understand why things fell apart, but trust that heaven knows the end from the beginning. Think about it this way. Losing what was never meant for you is a form of freedom. It clears the path for what truly belongs to you. God never allows a loss without a greater gain in sight. He's not just interested in getting you to a destination, He wants you to arrive with purpose, joy, and fulfillment. So when life takes a sudden turn, don't despair. Heaven is still in control. Trust the divine GPS, even when it feels like you're lost. God is leading you to the blueprint designed specifically for your life, a plan that's better, richer, and more meaningful than anything you could have drawn up on your own. Number 5. The graveyard of dreams becomes the nursery of miracles. There's nothing quite as painful as watching your dreams fall apart. You invest your time, energy, and heart into a vision, only to see it crumble right in front of you. It feels like standing in a graveyard, mourning the loss of hopes that will never come to life. But here's the truth heaven operates on. What you think is dead is often just planted. What you buried in tears is waiting for the right season to rise in glory. God specializes in resurrecting visions that the world has written off. Just because something looks finished doesn't mean it is. In the darkest places where hope seems extinct, miracles are quietly being nurtured. Think of a seed. It's buried in the soil, unseen and seemingly lifeless. But under the surface, it's transforming, growing, and preparing to break through into something magnificent. Your dreams are no different. Sometimes God allows dreams to be buried so they can grow in a way that honors Him and fulfills your true purpose. What you thought was rejection was actually divine preparation. You may have wanted the dream to bloom quickly, but God's timeline is always better, even if it's frustrating. He doesn't rush miracles because true transformation takes time. But here's the part that changes everything. When God brings your dream back to life, it's always bigger, better, and more meaningful than you imagined. That business idea you thought was a failure might come back as a global success. That relationship you thought was beyond repair could become a testimony of redemption. The dreams that died in your hands can become miracles in God's hands. So don't stand at the grave of your dreams too long. God isn't done with your story. What you thought was dead is simply waiting for the right season. And when heaven's timing aligns with your faith, those buried dreams will rise as living, breathing miracles that glorify God and bless your life beyond measure. Number 6. Heaven's accounting is rooted in justice, not fairness. Fairness is a human construct, a fragile system built on expectations and social norms. People fight for fairness, often ending up disappointed because life rarely delivers it. But God's justice isn't based on fairness, it's based on eternal truth. Heaven's accounting system never leaves debts unpaid, and God's justice always prevails, even when earthly systems fail. Maybe you've been wronged, betrayed by someone you trusted, overlooked at work, or criticized unfairly despite doing everything right. The world tells you to just let it go because that's how life works. But here's what heaven says. Not one injustice goes unnoticed. God keeps perfect records, and His system of justice operates beyond time and human understanding. The difference between fairness and divine justice is simple. Fairness is about getting what you think you deserve, while justice is about God restoring what you were created for. Earth's justice might give you a small payout, but heaven's justice redeems, restores, and elevates you. God doesn't just right the wrongs, He makes them work in your favor. Sometimes justice looks like vindication, a public display of God's hand reversing the false judgments made against you. Other times it's quieter but no less powerful, It might be peace that surpasses understanding, new opportunities that far exceed what you lost, or even a profound inner healing that no human apology could provide. You may wonder why God takes his time. But remember this: divine justice is always precise. It doesn't just fix the surface, it heals the roots. God's timing isn't about delay. It's about delivering a justice so complete that it not only blesses you, but also becomes a testimony of his glory. So if life has been unfair, don't despair. God is still working and his justice will come. When it does, it won't just set things right. It will elevate you to a place where his goodness shines through your story. Number 7. Every hidden act of faithfulness is a seed in God's timeless garden. It's easy to feel unnoticed in a world that constantly demands applause. You show up, do the right thing, and make sacrifices without anyone acknowledging your effort. It's frustrating, especially when those who cut corners or seek attention seem to get rewarded. But here's the truth: heaven never misses a single act of faithfulness, even the ones done in complete obscurity. Every time you chose integrity when no one was looking, heaven saw it. Every time you helped someone without broadcasting it on social media, heaven recorded it. Every moment you prayed, served, forgave, and loved without recognition was a seed planted in God's timeless garden. And unlike earthly gardens, where seasons are predictable, God's garden operates on divine timing. When it blooms, the harvest will blow your mind. The thing about seeds is that they disappear underground for a while. You might wonder if all your efforts were in vain, but God is the ultimate gardener. He knows how to nurture those hidden seeds, and when the time is right, they will produce a harvest that no human hand can take credit for. Your reward will be based not just on what was seen, but on every unseen act of obedience. The best part? God's rewards are never limited to material blessings. He gives peace that can't be bought, joy that doesn't fade, and influence that reaches far beyond what you imagined. And yes, sometimes he brings tangible blessings that exceed anything you dreamed of. So don't be discouraged when your faithfulness feels unnoticed. Heaven's reward system doesn't operate on human timelines or social validation. Keep planting those seeds of obedience and trust that God will bring forth a harvest that not only blesses you, but also inspires those around you. What's done in secret will be rewarded openly on God's perfect schedule. Number 8. God's compensation erases shame, not just loss. When life hits hard, loss often comes with a bitter sidekick, shame. It whispers that your failure defines you, that you'll never recover, and that people will only remember your mistakes. But God's restoration doesn't just address the loss. It removes the sting of humiliation and redeems your reputation. He doesn't just give back what was stolen. He restores with honor. Shame is a heavy burden to carry. It can keep you hiding, replaying regrets, and questioning your worth. But God's compensation is different from any earthly solution. When he restores, he does it in a way that silences every lie and erases every trace of disgrace. He turns what was meant to humiliate you into a testimony that glorifies him and elevates you. Think about the stories in Scripture. Joseph was sold into slavery and falsely accused, spending years in prison. But when God restored him, he didn't just set Joseph free, he elevated him to a position of power and influence. His shame was erased, and his testimony became one of triumph. That's how God works. He doesn't just heal the wound, he transforms the scar into a mark of victory. God's compensation isn't about making you acceptable again. It's about honoring you in ways that exceed what you lost. The relationships that broke you may be replaced with ones that heal you. The job that humiliated you may be replaced with a position that showcases your God-given gifts. The seasons of defeat may become the foundation for victories that inspire others. So when shame tries to define your story, remember that God isn't finished. He's not interested in merely restoring what was lost. He's determined to redeem your reputation and honor you in ways that only heaven can orchestrate. His restoration will be so complete that people won't just see your past. They'll see his glory shining through your life. Number 9. The waiting period is heaven's refining fire, not a punishment. Waiting is one of life's most frustrating experiences. You pray, hope, and work hard, yet nothing seems to move. It's easy to think God has forgotten you or that you're being punished for some unknown offense. But heaven doesn't waste time. It transforms it. The waiting period is never about punishment. It's a divine refining fire that shapes your character to match the magnitude of the blessing coming your way. Think about it. Raw blessings can destroy an unprepared person. If God gave you what you're asking for right now, would you be able to handle it without it becoming a burden or distraction? Heaven's reward system is thorough. God ensures that when your blessing arrives, you're refined, matured, and ready to carry it well. The waiting period isn't a denial, it's divine preparation. In the waiting, your faith is stretched, your patience deepened, and your trust in God fortified. It's where you learn to hear His voice more clearly and surrender your need for control. These lessons aren't just about getting through this season, they equip you for every season that follows. What feels like stagnation is actually divine growth beneath the surface. Here's the beautiful part. When God finally moves, it's sudden and complete. Blessings that seemed delayed will flood your life in ways that leave you speechless. And because you've been refined through the wait, you'll carry those blessings with wisdom and gratitude. They won't just bless you, they'll bless everyone connected to you. So if you're in a waiting season, don't let frustration cloud your perspective. Heaven isn't withholding, it's preparing. And when God finishes His work, your life will be a reflection of His perfect timing and transformative power. Trust the process because heaven never gives raw blessings. They're always well prepared and worth the wait. Number 10. Earth's logic can't fathom heaven's rewards. Trying to understand God's ways using earthly logic is like trying to explain quantum physics to a toddler. It simply doesn't work. Earth operates on equations that make sense to the human mind. Work hard, get rewarded, give, receive, lose, and you're at a deficit. But heaven operates on a completely different system, one rooted in grace, mercy, and eternal purpose. If you try to measure heaven's blessings by earthly logic, you'll always come up short. In God's economy, losses often lead to the greatest gains. Failure becomes the soil where success blooms, and the least qualified by human standards are often chosen for the most significant assignments. Think about the stories in Scripture. David was a shepherd, overlooked by his own family, yet he was chosen as king. Joseph was a slave and prisoner, yet God elevated him to the highest position in Egypt. By earthly standards, none of it made sense. But heaven's logic is driven by divine purpose, not human criteria. When God blesses you, it won't always fit neatly into the world's framework. You may receive opportunities you didn't earn by earthly standards. But heaven's accounting isn't based on merit alone. It's based on God's sovereign will and your faithfulness. Blessings that come through heaven's system often defy explanation because they're not just about you. They're part of a larger divine plan. The sooner you release the need to make sense of everything, the more peace you'll find. God doesn't need to follow the rules of human logic to bless you. He doesn't even need favorable circumstances to work a miracle. Heaven's rewards are often surprising, but they're always perfect. So when life doesn't add up, remember that God's mathematics are rooted in eternity. Trust that His blessings will come in ways that defy human understanding but fulfill your deepest needs and divine purpose. Heaven's math may not make sense, but it always leads to abundance. Number 11. What you endured becomes the currency you spend in eternity. Suffering is a strange currency. On earth, it seems to leave you bankrupt, physically, emotionally, and sometimes even spiritually. But heaven sees things differently. Every trial you endured, every tear you shed, and every scar you carry is a deposit in eternity. God wastes nothing. What you endured here becomes the currency you spend in eternity, and your scars will be your crown jewels. Earth teaches us to hide our pain and cover our wounds, but heaven celebrates them as evidence of victory. Think of Jesus after His resurrection. He still bore the scars from the crucifixion, but they were no longer marks of defeat. They were symbols of triumph. Your scars are the same. They are proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you and that God's grace carried you through. Heaven doesn't just reward endurance with comfort. It transforms your suffering into eternal treasures. The prayers you prayed through tears, the faith you clung to when everything fell apart, and the love you chose to give despite rejection, all become treasures stored up in heaven. They don't just vanish into the past. They are woven into your eternal inheritance. And here's the mystery. The currency of suffering doesn't just benefit you. Your endurance becomes a testimony that strengthens others and brings glory to God. What you endured here will echo through eternity, not as a story of defeat, but as a song of victory. So don't despise your scars. Don't resent the seasons of pain. God is keeping perfect track, and every moment of suffering is being translated into eternal riches. When you step into eternity, those scars will no longer carry pain. They will radiate glory, testifying to God's faithfulness and your triumph in Him. Number 12. God never leaves empty spaces unfilled for His chosen ones. Life has a way of creating voids, lost relationships, missed opportunities, and dreams that never materialized. These empty spaces can haunt you, making you feel as though something is permanently missing. But here's the truth. Heaven wants you to know God abhors a void. Whatever was taken from your life, He has already planned to fill it with something eternal and incorruptible. God is a creator by nature. From the very beginning, He spoke into emptiness and filled it with light, life, and beauty. That same creative power is still at work in your life. When something is taken, God doesn't just leave the space vacant. He replaces it with something better, something that aligns with His divine purpose for you. Sometimes the new thing God brings doesn't look like what you expected. You may lose a job but gain a calling. A relationship may end, but it makes room for deeper connections that nourish your soul. Even time that seems wasted can be redeemed by God, who operates outside of time altogether. The key is trust. When you hold on to what was lost, you block the space God wants to fill. But when you surrender the void to Him, you open yourself up to divine restoration. And God never fills a space halfway. He fills it to overflowing. Heaven's compensation isn't about simply replacing what was lost. It's about transforming your life into something richer and more meaningful. The empty spaces become the very areas where God's glory shines brightest. So when you feel the ache of emptiness, remember that God is already at work. He never leaves His chosen ones with unfilled spaces. Trust Him to fill those voids in ways that exceed your imagination, bringing joy, purpose, and eternal blessings. Heaven's promise is clear. Your life will never be defined by what's missing, but by what God has filled. Number 13. The final balance sheet will always favor God's chosen ones. Life often feels like a constant balancing act between gains and losses. You work hard, endure setbacks, and try to make sense of where you stand. But sometimes, no matter how much effort you put in, it looks like you're operating at a deficit. Here's the divine truth. Heaven keeps a different kind of balance sheet, and when the final audit is complete, God's chosen ones will always come out in abundance. Earthly systems measure success by immediate results: money in the bank, accolades on the wall, and possessions to show for your efforts. But heaven's accounting isn't limited to the here and now. God factors in every unseen act of faith, every trial endured, and every moment of obedience. While it may look like you're losing here, heaven is quietly recording your investments in eternal riches. God is not a debtor. He doesn't forget what you've poured out in faith. When He does His final audit, He doesn't just balance the books. He fills them with overflowing blessings. What seemed like losses will be revealed as seeds that produced an abundant harvest. The relationships you thought were wasted, the time you believed was gone, and the sacrifices that went unnoticed will all be counted in your favor. Here's where it gets even better. God's final balance sheet doesn't just bless you. It becomes a testimony that others can't ignore. When heaven rewards you, it's a public declaration of God's faithfulness and your victory. So when life makes you feel like you're losing, remember that heaven's balance sheet tells a different story. God's chosen ones always come out ahead. The final audit will reveal that your life wasn't defined by deficits, but by divine abundance. And when heaven writes the last chapter, it will be a masterpiece filled with victory, joy, and eternal rewards. Number 14. Heaven's repayment is not just for you, it's generational. God's restoration is never confined to one lifetime. When heaven repays you for your losses, the blessings often spill over to generations you'll never meet. This isn't just about you. It's about creating a legacy of divine abundance that transforms your family line. In earthly systems, wealth and influence often die with the person who accumulated them. But heaven's blessings are designed to outlive you. Think of Abraham. God's promises to him weren't just for his lifetime, but for his descendants. His obedience and faith set the stage for generations of blessing. That's how God works. He doesn't just think in terms of today, he sees generations down the line and blesses accordingly. When you endure loss and remain faithful, you're not just securing restoration for yourself, you're planting seeds for those who come after you. Your children, grandchildren, and even generations you'll never meet will reap the benefits of your faithfulness. The prayers you prayed in tears will become the protection and provision they walk in. The lessons you learned through hardship will become the wisdom they inherit. God's repayment plan is always generational because his love is generational. He cares about your family line, your legacy, and the impact your life will have long after you're gone. And here's the best part. Heaven's blessings are incorruptible. Unlike earthly inheritances that can be lost, squandered, or stolen, God's blessings are eternal and secure. So when you think about heaven's repayment, don't limit it to what you can see in your lifetime. Trust that God is writing a story far bigger than you. Your faith, obedience, and endurance are creating a legacy of divine abundance that will bless generations to come. And when it's all said and done, heaven's repayment will be more than worth the wait. Not just for you, but for everyone connected to your life. Heaven's repayment is not just a promise, it's a guarantee. God sees every tear, every sacrifice, and every unseen act of faith. What may seem like losses in this world are divine investments that heaven is preparing to return with unimaginable interest. But here's the breathtaking truth. God's compensation isn't just transactional, it's transformational. It doesn't merely restore what was lost, it redeems it with glory, honor, and eternal purpose. Heaven's justice system never leaves debts unpaid, and God never overlooks his chosen ones. While the world may keep score unfairly, heaven operates on a higher, incorruptible standard of divine justice. The waiting, the scars, and the seasons of emptiness all serve as preparation for a reward so great that earthly logic can't comprehend it. And the best part? Heaven's repayment doesn't stop with you. It extends to generations you'll never meet. The legacy of your endurance and faith will echo through time, shaping lives and rewriting family histories. What looked like the graveyard of dreams will become the nursery of miracles, and every seed of faith you've planted will blossom into eternal treasures. So take heart. You're not forgotten, overlooked, or abandoned. God is writing a story where every loss becomes a testimony, every scar a crown jewel, and every waiting season a prelude to a divine unveiling. Heaven's blueprint for your life is unfolding perfectly, and when the final balance sheet is revealed, it will overflow in your favor. Stay faithful. Heaven is already preparing the table for your reward, a feast that generations will celebrate. And when God repays his chosen ones, it's not just enough. It's always more than enough. Heaven never disappoints. Trust that your losses are simply the foundation for a greater and eternal glory. The best is yet to come, and heaven is setting the stage for your undeniable victory. If this message spoke to your heart and gave you a new perspective, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your family and friends. Let them be inspired and uplifted too. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful content like this. Your support means everything to us. Give this video a thumbs up if it blessed you, and drop a comment below to let us know how heaven's repayment is unfolding in your life. We love hearing your stories of faith and victory. Thank you for being part of this incredible community. Together, we're spreading hope, truth, and God's divine promises. Stay blessed. God bless you.